Hi everyone, it's Heidi Smith here. I'm a independent Stampin' Up demonstrator based here in the United Kingdom, right in the heart of the country in South Warwickshire. And today I'm bringing you a lovely project using a fabulous new stamp set, and it is this one here. It's a bundle and it's under my umbrella, so you can buy the stamp set on its own, but if you buy the punch at the same time using the bundle code, you get 10% off, so it makes it really good. And having the punch makes it just so much easier to create these lovely little umbrella pictures. So this one here uses watercolouring, a bit of watercolour paper and some paper piercing, and paper piercing is where you stamp onto a some designer series paper, kind of, although actually paper piercing is probably slightly different. Anyway, let's just gloss over that. So lovely sentiments in here, and lovely friendship ones, showered with love, all sorts of things, as well as these two fabulous umbrella images, and some great floral accents. So the paper I've used on this is actually from the Dress to Impress pack. Best Dressed, in fact, is the name of the paper itself, and you've got lovely florals, as well as the kind of makeup images that go with the Dress to Impress stamp set. But it has got some very pretty floral papers with quite small flowers, which I thought would be perfect for this particular project. Get my teeth in today. So we're going to start off by doing a bit of watercolouring, because obviously when you're doing that, it takes time to dry. It's not something I do a lot of, but that's just because I often don't have time to let it dry, I suppose. So I'm starting off with a piece of watercolour paper, and that is literally sort of quite a small piece. It is centimetres, about 7.5. Yeah, 7.5 by 11 centimetre piece of paper, and I've got just a spare block that I've got with some of the Pool Party re-inker, and that's one of the old ones, but obviously whichever one you've got will work fine. You need an aqua painter, so that's, you're going to use that to create. So you just need a couple of drops, 2 or 3 drops of Pool Party, a squeeze of water on there, a lovely sort of colour, and then you're just going to kind of, as you go, just kind of puddle it on here. And then that gives a very pretty, and it's just a very pretty effect. Pop that to one side and leave it to dry. So again, so you can see just a very sort of gentle colour on the side there, and I'll leave that to dry. As it dries, you might want to put it under something heavy like a punch, just because obviously the fibres swell and absorb the paper. The fibres swell as they absorb the moisture in the paper, and so that kind of distorts it if you're not careful. But that it all adds to the fun. You just need to make sure you glue it down really well. So to start off with then, we're going to take a piece of our designer series paper, which I've got here, and I'm using my semi-closed umbrella stamp, although obviously you could use the open one if you wanted to. It would look just as effective. And I'm going to use my Memento black ink just to stamp that in the corner there. Now we could go ahead and just try and punch that out using our punch. But if I did, you'll see that actually I'm going to waste an awful lot of paper. So all I do is take my snips, very roughly cut out, add it to a post-it note. You've seen me do this lots of times before, but it's just pop it in on a post-it note, and then you can feed that. I'm going to pop it on that side actually. There we go. Then you can feed that in. Line it up with your image, like so. If you struggle with your hands, just pop it, and that's a really good tip anyway to do that, because otherwise you could end up breaking or damaging your punch because you're not punching square. So you end up with this pretty little umbrella. which you can pop to one side. Then to create the little handle, it's as simple as taking a little scrap of basic black, and again just feeding that in from the side for a little umbrella handle. And then what I'm going to do is pop that to one, attach the handle and pop it to one side. I always like to kind of shape my die cuts if I can, particularly flowers. It's things that should have a shape I like to shape because they're not sort of flat. So I've just given that a quick shape with my bone folder. Chaos reigns. And then we're just going to pop our umbrella handle, which is a little bit of glue on the end there. Pop your handle in the centre and pop that to one side again just to dry. Okay, so the next sort of bit of our project is the flowers. So again, I'm going to use my Memento black ink, and I've taken the sort of florally spray images and just stamp those as many times as you like. And obviously if you were using the open umbrella, you'd probably need more flowers. I quite fancied using the little one. I have done some preparation with these already as well. Now I've stamped Memento because I wanted to use my Stampin' Blends to colour these, and I'm going to go for some Granny Apple Green for the leaves, and with some of the I'm just using in this instance the light Granny Apple Green to come in. It's only a tiny little bit, so it's quite difficult to get shading anyway, but again, for speed and expedience, let's just use the one. But what you can do, even if you've got just one shade, which I'll show you in a moment, my lovely lipstick. I'm using Lovely Lipstick to pick up the pink in here. I've only got the dark Lovely Lipstick. I think it's because when I went to a Stampin' Up event, I was lucky enough to sort of grab one out of the box. I think that's why. And I just haven't got around to ordering the light one, which I probably ought to, given that these colours will be retiring come the summer. But it doesn't matter because, as I said, these are only sort of small images, so there's not as much scope for shading as you would have normally anyway. But if you allow it to dry, which I'm colouring those ones are drying. Actually, what I wanted to show you is I sort of tend to come in with the brush tip. There we go. It gets a better finish. I'd obviously just pulled off the bullet end. But if you come in afterwards, once that's dry, and add just a little bit more on the one edge, you do get a hint of shading as well. So, you know, just having the one colour really doesn't matter. Then I'm using my dark Daffodil Delight to come in. Now, if you've got Stampin' Right markers instead, that would be fine. Or obviously you could use your blender pen with your ink pads to colour these as well. Then all I'm going to do is just fussy cut those out. So fussy cut or fuzzy cutting, depending on, you know, different people call it fuzzy cutting, I think, because it's sort of not precise. I always start sort of halfway along the scissors, and I just kind of, as I close the scissors, I move my card as much as I move the scissors. So you can see, hopefully you can see, I'm keeping my scissors pretty much in the same position, and as I close them, I'm just kind of wiggling the card really to kind of get the shape. Now, some people prefer a little white border around. I generally go on the black line, generally, not always, and that's because it saves me going and colouring it in afterwards to avoid, you know, the white, or with the black. So, you know, it's up to you how precise you want to be. So you're going to go through and you're going to cut yourself a host of those little images that I've got here. Now again, you could do them in other colours, so I've done some in Highland Heather as well, and we'll see how those look when we come to it. So in the meantime, our panel has been drying. It's fairly dry. It's not actually perfect. So while that is again drying, I'm going to do a little bit of stamping of our sentiment and our back panel. So what I've actually created, I've done a card base in Thick Whisper White, which is 29 by 10.5 centimetres, and I'm just going to score that very quickly at 14.5 to give our card base. What I might do is actually, no, I won't. Okay. So that's our card base. I then cut a piece of Petal Pink, which is another of the colours in the designer series paper, and that is 14 by 10 centimetres. And what I've done is I've just taken one of the floral images and my Petal Pink ink, and I'm just creating my own kind of pattern paper by just stamping over here. I think I used the larger one on my other one. It's just to give a hint of pattern. And I'm just coming all the way around here. And this is a great way to kind of just add a bit of interest to a layer. And I tend to probably do it when I'm using a piece of watercolour. I'm very frugal with my watercolour paper. It is quite a bit more expensive than just our ordinary Whisper White. And so you want to make the most of it. So I use the watercolour paper for what I need to, but then add to fill out the front of the card with a layer of nice coloured card. And so by doing this, you're adding a bit of interest to it as well. So once we've done that, I've then cut a layer of lovely lipstick, and this is just a fraction, it's not even half a centimetre bigger, so this is 7.8 by 11.3 centimetres, and that's going to be our layer here, which is going to go on there. And then we're going to come in with raindrops and hopefully not put a smudge on like I did on my original. Okay, so just a few raindrops around the edge there. Put that to one side. Then on our scrap Whisper White here, I've just inked up the sentiment, "Life showers bring love's flowers," using our beautiful lovely lipstick. It's a gorgeous colour, this, really, really pretty. And I'm using my Timeless label, which I seem to have, here we go, put to one side, to come in. And once I've done that, I'm going to use the same image that I used for the background to just go above and below my sentiment. Again, not colouring that in, just adding it as a little accent, self-colours, to tie that in. And then out of a scrap of lovely lipstick, I'm just going to punch on those labels as well. You could, if you wanted, punch that out of the centre of this layer here, because it's not going to be visible. That's always a possibility. And just cut up the centre of that label. Once you cut at the centre, turn your stamped layer over and add a bit of glue to the back, just down those two edges. And then what I do is I sort of line up that very outer edge and do the same on the other side, just to give a hint. And then you can always trim if you've got a little bit that you want to, that's poking out, not quite aligned. Add a couple of dimensionals just to the lower half of that, And then I think we're ready to go back in and finish off our layer. So the first thing I'm actually going to do is add this to my card, and I'm actually going to put quite a bit of tape on the back of this, because it's, as I said, it's not, it's not warped exactly, but it's just got a slight bit of shaping to it. There we go. I'm going to add our umbrella. And because I've added a bit of dimension, I'm just going to add a couple of dimensionals there. What I haven't done is actually done my, I just realised I haven't done my pair of welly boots. Never mind. Okay, and then all I'm going to do with these is just shape them slightly before I add them to the project with some mini dimensionals. So just a mini dimensional on the back of each of those. And then they really do sort of lend themselves to kind of hang over the side of the umbrella. Like so. If you want to do the wellies, I just simply stamped those and coloured them using my Daffodil Delight marker. Just forgotten about that completely, never mind. Again using Memento, and then pop some dimensionals on the back, ready to add our layer. But before we do that, I'm actually going to add my petal pink layer first. Realised I haven't actually trimmed that to length, but there we go, I'll do that afterwards. So I use my piece that is trimmed. There we go, like so. Add our lovely lipstick layer with all of our additions on there. Pop that in the middle. Then come in and add the sentiment just to the top here, and I've just left that till the end so that it just adds in the corner. So there we have a pair of pretty Under My Umbrella cards. Thanks for watching. Come back and see me again soon, and if you'd like to purchase any of the products you've seen today, pop along to my blog where you can find links, or pop along to my shop, heidismith.stampinup.net, and you can find my shop there. Thanks for watching. Bye now.